Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Monday, May 5th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. When we go over my core picks, it's going to be 5 players in total, 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. That's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top teams to stack for Monday's slate. It's a little bit smaller slate as we typically do have on Monday, but should be a pretty good one overall. In the morning, I'll be listing my weather report that will have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. I will try to update that as best as possible throughout the day, and I will also be listing as many of the starting lineups down in that comment section as I can get to throughout the afternoon. Once again, we do have a baseball game going on, so hopefully we get most of them out prior to the start of that game, but if not, feel free to check over on RotoWire. They have the MLB Daily starting lineups listed there once they are confirmed, so that is a good resource to use as well. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off at that pitcher position with Jake Irvin of the Washington Nationals. He's $8,100, averaging just under 28 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Cleveland Guardians. He does have some pretty decent history versus them in the past, although it is pretty limited history at that. So definitely do like the upside at $8,100. And if we look at what he's done so far in the season, he's got 2 wins. ERA is just over 4 at this point in time. Once again, averaging about 28 fantasy points per game at $8,100. If you look a little bit more in depth on his starts so far this year, he's kind of gone back and forth. He's had some pretty high upside starts here in the middle. If we can get a quality start out of him, if we can get a win, he's going to look pretty good overall. The one kind of downside with him is typically he's a guy that doesn't strike out a lot of guys, and Cleveland is typically a team that does do pretty well at putting the ball into play, but he did have 40 points against them in 2024. Then we move down to our hitters. We're going to start off with catcher Sean Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. $3,100, averaging about 12 fantasy points per game. He's been doing pretty well since he's returned from the IL, and he goes against the Cincinnati Reds. Brady Singer is the expected starting pitcher for them. In his career versus Brady Singer, he's 5 for 8 with 2 home runs, so definitely do like the upside that is there out of Sean Murphy. He's been doing pretty well as of late. He has at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 8 starts, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 3 home runs, 5 double-digit performances, and 6 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So does have a relatively safe floor with some pretty significant upside at the same time as well. And if we look at what he's done so far in the season, .217 batting average, 7 home runs, 14 RBIs. He's averaging about 12 fantasy points per game at $3,100. So definitely do like that upside out of him at this price tag. You can feel free to mix him in your lineup with some other Braves hitters at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to second base with Mookie Betts. You can also play him at shortstop. You can also play him in outfield, so a lot of versatility there with him once again. $4,200, averaging just over 12 fantasy points per game, goes against the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is the expected starting pitcher for them. And Sandy Alcantara has pitched pretty poorly versus the Dodgers in the past, and that does include Mookie Betts at the same time as well. He is 7 for 16 with 2 home runs versus Alcantara in his career. He is on a modest 6-game hitting streak as we do speak. 4 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, 4 double-digit performances, and 5 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So it does offer a relatively safe floor with some pretty high-end upside at the same time as well. Obviously, been hitting the ball a little bit better. And if we look at what he's done on the season in totality, .267 batting average, 5 home runs, 21 RBIs, once again averaging over 12 fantasy points per game at $4,200. Then we're going to get moved down to shortstop with Elly De La Cruz, $3,700, goes against the Atlanta Braves. He is one of the Reds hitters that does have some history versus A.J. Smith-Shawver. He is the expected starting pitcher for that Atlanta Braves team. He is 2 for 2 with 1 home run versus Smith-Shawver in his career. And if we look at what Elly De La Cruz has done as of late, he has had at least 1 hit in 15 out of his last 17 games, 6 multi-hit games during that time span, 2 home runs, 12 double-digit performances, and 14 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So a pretty solid floor out of Elly De La Cruz. Kind of surprised that he's all the way down to $3,700. Once again, was expecting him to be closer to $4,000. So definitely taking advantage of that upside once again. On the season, he's in .269, 5 home runs, 25 RBIs, once again averaging over 13 fantasy points per game. And he's been stealing some bases in a pretty big way once again at the same time as well. And then last but not least, we're going to go with Teoscar Hernandez at $3,800, averaging just over 14 fantasy points per game, goes against the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is the expected starting pitcher for them once again, and Teoscar Hernandez has done pretty well versus him in his career. He is 3 for 9 versus Alcantara, and if we look at what Teoscar Hernandez has done as of late, he has at least 1 hit in 10 out of his last 11 games, 6 multi-hit games during that time span, 4 home runs, and 8 double-digit performances, so really hitting the ball well as of late. And if we look at what he's done on the season in totality, .306 batting average, 9 home runs, 33 RBIs, once again averaging just over 14 fantasy points per game at $3,800. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,100 remaining, just over $3,000 remaining per player. So looking a little bit more like a balanced build the rest of the way. But obviously, if you want to mix and match some more of these stacks in, whether that's the Atlanta Braves, the Dodgers, or some of the ones that we'll be talking about in just a minute here when we get over to my cheat sheet, definitely feel free to do so. But without further ado, we'll get right over to that cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Monday's slate. So we're going to start off with the Atlanta Braves. They have hit Brady Singer pretty well in the past, whether that's Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Austin Riley, quite a few guys out there. And then we have the Cincinnati Reds. Very small history versus A.J. Smith-Shawver. The 2 most notable ones are going to be Elly De La Cruz and Jake Fraley, both of which have a homer versus Smith-Shawver in the past. Then we move over to that Dodgers team. Pretty much everybody on this team has hit Sandy Alcantara really well in the past, and they did rock him in his most recent start. So would expect that to be the case once again. And then last but not least, I have the Chicago Cubs. They're going against Landon Roop of the San Francisco Giants. They have no history versus him in the past, but definitely a favorable spot for that Cubs team just in general. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Monday, May 5th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, in the morning, I will be posting that weather report. You'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will also be posting as many of the starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon prior to our baseball game. Hopefully all the lineups should be out at that point in time. If not, feel free to check over on RotoWire as they do get confirmed over there for MLB daily lineups. Definitely a great resource out there at the same time as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks. That's going to be coming out typically Monday through Friday. I know last week was kind of all over the place. Had a couple other things going on, didn't feel the greatest. And as I'm talking, still don't quite feel the greatest. My sinus is kind of acting up still, but wanted to get this video out there. We'll be doing some NFL draft grades at some point in time. I can't guarantee when that's going to be. Unfortunately, just kind of threw everything for a loop. And then once again, I'll be putting on my UFL DFS video. And that video does typically come out on Wednesdays. I am expecting that to be either Wednesday or Thursday this week. Just kind of depends on how the rest of the week plays out. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Monday, May 5th.